My name is Maria, and I'm 23 years old. I'm a housewife. My husband, Ted, is 25. We met in college when I was a junior and he was a senior. We first became friends after meeting at a party and started dating. The year I graduated, he proposed to me. I loved him, so I happily said yes. I was excited to marry the man I loved and have a happy life together. But things didn't turn out the way I expected. After our wedding, we moved in with his parents, and from the start, my mother-in-law didn't like me. She complained about my cooking and said it was terrible. "You can't even cook rice properly," she would say. No matter how much I cleaned, she would find dust somewhere and make me do it again. Nothing I did was ever good enough for her. At first, I thought I just wasn't meeting her expectations, but then she started ignoring me. Whenever we ordered food, she would accidentally forget to get me a meal. "Oh no, I forgot about Maria," she would say, acting innocent. Since this happened too often, I knew it wasn't a mistake. My father-in-law never noticed, and I had to find food for myself. I asked Ted what he thought. "Ted, do you think your mom dislikes me?" "You're overthinking." "My mom wouldn't dislike you," he said, sounding annoyed. "But she forgot to order food for me again," I pointed out. "It was just a coincidence," he said, brushing it off. "You have to get along with her since she's family." And that was the end of our conversation. One day, as we passed each other, my mother-in-law pushed me and said, "Oh my, I didn't see this big piece of trash. I should throw it out." She looked at me like I was nothing. That's when I knew for sure she had been treating me badly on purpose. After that, whenever Ted and my father-in-law weren't home, she insulted me even more. I told Ted about it again, and he said, "I told Mom that you think she doesn't like you." She was really sad. I knew that wasn't true. After that talk, she treated me even worse. Ted sighed and said, "You're too paranoid. Stop talking about this. You're such a pain." Then he ended the conversation. Not long after, he started coming home late, saying he had extra work. 6 months later, I found a lipstick stain on his shirt. My heart sank. "Ted, what is this?" I asked. This," he hesitated, then finally admitted he was cheating on me with a younger coworker. I was shocked. While his mother was treating me terribly, he was having fun with someone else. When I confronted him, he got angry. "It's your fault," he said. "You weren't a good wife." Hearing that, I felt my love for him disappear. I could never forgive him after that. So I decided to divorce him and go back to my parents' house. My mother-in-law and Ted couldn't believe I wanted a divorce just because of one affair and some complaints. But thanks to my father-in-law, who kept them in check, the divorce went through smoothly. I also received money from Ted and the woman he cheated with. It has now been 20 years since I divorced Ted. I remarried and have 3 wonderful children with the best man I could have ever met. My eldest son is 18, my second is 16, and my youngest is 14. My husband and I have a happy marriage, though raising 3 teenage boys who are always hungry is quite the challenge. Still, life is fulfilling and joyful. One day, I got a call from an unknown number. "Hello? Maria? It's me, Ted." "Ted, what do you want?" I was shocked. Why was he calling after all these years, and how did he get my number? "Don't be so cold. We used to be married, remember? We were happy together once. I thought maybe we could start over." "No. Have you forgotten why we ended? I'm already married, and the thought of getting back with you is disgusting." I hung up and blocked his number right away. I thought that was the end of it, but I was wrong. A few days later, while I was cooking, the doorbell rang. It kept ringing nonstop, followed by loud banging. "Maria, I know you're in there. Open up. Why are you making us wait?" It was Ted and his mother, yelling and pounding on my door. Their voices were so loud that my neighbors came outside to see what was happening. "Divorce your husband and marry me again, and give me back my alimony. Maria, don't be selfish. Your father-in-law took care of you for so long. It's your turn to come back and take care of him." Hearing the noise, my sons came out of their rooms. "What's going on, Mom? Are they calling your name? Is that your ex-husband and his mother? You divorced them already." "We'll handle this, Mom. Go rest in the back." "Don't worry, we got this," they assured me as they walked toward the door. "Who are you? What do you want with our mother?" my eldest son demanded. Suddenly, the yelling turned into screams. Worried, I hurried to check. I found my sons holding Ted and his mother down. Take it easy, boys. You're in the judo and rugby clubs, I reminded them. We know, we're going easy on them, my son said. I wasn't worried about my boys getting hurt. I was more concerned they might seriously injure Ted and his mother. At my request, my son let Ted go. Ted groaned in pain. Ouch. How dare you hurt me? I'm calling the police. Go ahead, my son said calmly. Ted pulled out his phone and called the police. A few minutes later, a police car arrived. As soon as the officers got out, Ted and his mother started crying. When I came to talk to my ex-wife, these guys attacked me. They assaulted us. I was scared because I was suddenly surrounded by 3 big men. Officer, do something. Arrest these kids. Ted cried. One of the police officers turned to me. Maria, is that true? Oh, Ted and his mother looked confused when they heard the officer call me by name. My ex-husband and his mother came to my house, banging on the door and causing a scene. My sons only went to check on them, I explained. Dad, we just held them down because they were acting crazy. We didn't do anything else, my eldest son added. That's right, my second son agreed. One of the officers who had arrived was actually my current husband. He's a police officer. When Ted and his mother realized this, Ted shouted, Hey, that's not fair. You're just defending your son because he's yours. That's abuse of power. They kept trying to twist the situation, but my husband stayed calm. He knew our sons were telling the truth, but since both sides had different stories, he had to handle things fairly. As he was thinking about what to do, our neighbors, who had seen everything, spoke up. Your sons did nothing wrong. These 2 were the ones making a scene, one neighbor said. Hearing this, Ted and his mother turned pale. They panicked and started telling the neighbors to be quiet. My husband looked at Ted and said, I've heard how badly you treated my wife before. I think it's best if we continue this conversation at the police station. And with that, Ted and his mother were put into separate police cars and taken away. Later, I found out the real reason behind their sudden visit. My ex-father-in-law had dementia, and they wanted me to take care of him. On top of that, they also wanted me to return the alimony money. It was unbelievable. They had tracked me down just for their own benefit. I also learned that Ted had been snooping around my house. With the help of my husband's brother, who was a lawyer, we filed a legal complaint. If Ted ever tries anything again, he'll be charged as a stalker. Luckily, Ted and his mother were terrified of my sons. On top of that, they realized my husband was a police officer. Because of this, they likely won't try anything again. To make me feel even safer, my husband signed up for a home security system. He's such a caring and wonderful man. I'm so grateful for the loving family I have now. My name is Sarah, and I recently turned 45. I've spent so many years raising my children, and now that they're becoming independent, I finally have time for myself. Just when I thought I could relax, my husband told me that his parents' printing company was struggling. He works there as a managing director, but things weren't going well. I had no idea, and I felt guilty for being unaware while living comfortably as a housewife. So I decided to help until the business recovered. It was tough learning something new, but my father-in-law patiently taught me. Before long, I was able to do the work on my own. I'm really sorry we had to ask for your help. I don't even know how things got this bad, my father-in-law said, looking worried. Hearing that, I wanted to do whatever I could to support him. Every day from morning until night, I worked hard alongside my father-in-law. We were always busy making deliveries. I didn't mind the hard work because I was only helping to rebuild the business. I just wanted to support my father-in-law, who was struggling. But as time passed, I started to wonder about my mother-in-law and my husband. My mother-in-law sat at her desk, watching TV or reading magazines. She said she needed to answer the phone, but she often left to go to the salon or spa, then went shopping and came home with lots of bags. My husband left for work every day, but he never seemed to bring in any sales. At night, instead of helping, he just sat and talked with his mother. It seemed like my father-in-law was the only one actually taking orders over the phone. While my father-in-law and I were running around, working nonstop, my husband and mother-in-law were just relaxing. I couldn't ignore it anymore, so I asked my husband, "Where do you go every day? You never bring in any sales. Your mother just sits around too. We're all working so hard, we don't even have time to eat lunch. We could really use some help." My husband got angry. Don't act like you know everything just because you helped a little. Sales aren't the only part of business. You don't understand anything. But your father and I are the only ones working so hard, I argued. Shut up. Do you even know what hard work is? There are people in this world who work way harder than you. People who just stay home their whole lives are useless. I can't stand them. What? I worked hard at home raising our children, and now I'm working for free to help your father. You don't have to talk to me like that. I was just asking for help. Say whatever you want, you idiot, he snapped before storming out. Later, my mother-in-law confronted me. What do you mean I don't work? How dare you say that? I have important things to do. You just don't understand. I didn't mean it like that. I just don't even have time to go to a salon, and I'm helping your husband every day. I tried to explain. How dare you talk back to me, she shouted. Then she accused me of trying to take over the business. What? That's not true at all. I started to say, but she cut me off. I don't care what you say. I looked at my husband, hoping he would defend me. But instead he sneered, you sure have a big mouth. But look at yourself, you don't even look like a woman. He laughed. My mother-in-law smirked and added, she's right. You should take better care of your looks, like I do. She laughed along with him. I had worked so hard to take care of our home. Now I was working tirelessly to save my in-laws' business, and this was how they treated me. I felt something inside me break, something I had been holding back for a long time. I would never forget what they had done. The next day, after my mother-in-law and husband left as usual, I decided it was time to take action. Bob, I need to talk to you, I told my father-in-law. He looked surprised by my serious tone but listened carefully, so I laid everything out for him. First, my husband. He hadn't been going out for work, he had been gambling. He had lost almost all our living expenses and was drowning in debt. Worse, he had been fooled by shady investment schemes and had put the company's money into them, causing massive financial losses. Then, my mother-in-law. She had been spending her entire salary on beauty treatments and luxury shopping. Not only that, but she had also been secretly taking money from the company. On top of it all, she was cheating on my father-in-law. Together, she and my husband had drained the company of tens of thousands of dollars. My father-in-law sat there in stunned silence, his face pale. Then the weight of everything crashed down on him. Why? How did this happen? I've done nothing but work hard, he murmured, tears falling from his eyes. At that moment, I knew I wanted to save him. Bob, can you forgive them? I asked softly. He took a deep breath. I can't forgive them for what they did to my father's company. But Sarah, even though we know the truth now, I don't have the strength to fix it anymore. Leave it to me, I said. Before I got married, I had worked in real estate. Though I became a full-time homemaker at my husband's request, I had secretly invested in property using my personal savings. That property had skyrocketed in value. If I sold it, I could pay off the company's debt and still have enough money to keep it running. At first, my father-in-law was hesitant to accept my help. But when he saw my determination, he finally agreed. And then, the day of reckoning arrived. My father-in-law gathered everyone at the office. So Sarah has saved the company, he announced. My husband scoffed. What kind of joke is this? My mother-in-law sneered. She saved the company. Did she magically become competent after she stopped being a woman? That's enough, my father-in-law roared. Do you not understand that you're in no position to mock Sarah? Their smug expressions vanished. He continued, Sarah has paid off all the company's debts. From today forward, she is the president of this company. You two are fired. My husband's face twisted in shock. What? What do you mean, she paid off the debt? There's no way she had that kind of money. I never gave her a dime since we got married. My father-in-law's face darkened. I don't remember raising you to be this kind of person. You are the most disgraceful son I could have ever imagined. My husband gaped at him, lost for words. And my father-in-law continued, you two will be held responsible for all the money you wasted. You're going to pay it back, every cent of it. My husband and mother-in-law turned pale. That's when I stepped in. Unlike your terrible investments, I made steady, smart choices. I used my savings wisely, and that's how I was able to save this company. Their eyes widened in horror. For the first time, they realized that they had lost. Thanks to that, I was able to save your father's company. But that wasn't all. I had also investigated every expense, the beauty treatments, the designer goods, the reckless stock purchases, and those scam-like investments. Every dollar was accounted for. I placed a stack of documents in front of them. "This is the full amount you two have wasted," I said firmly. "A professional has verified these calculations, so I won't accept any disputes. You will repay every cent." They stared at the documents, their faces draining of color. But this wasn't enough. My father-in-law and I each placed another document on the table. "We are divorced as of today. Sign it." My husband's jaw dropped. "No, this is insane. I told you, my investment was about to pay off. Just give me a little more time." My mother-in-law clutched my father-in-law's arm. "You've been with me your whole life. You wouldn't throw me out, would you?" Bob's face was emotionless. "No matter what you say, our decision won't change." They protested, but the evidence of their misdeeds was overwhelming. In the end, they had no choice but to sign. We also sold a house my husband and I had lived in, using the money to recoup some of the company's losses. My ex-husband and mother-in-law, stripped of their wealth and status, were forced to rent a small apartment. Since their debt was officially recorded, there was no escaping it. They had spent their lives avoiding responsibility, but now they had no choice but to work and repay what they owed. As for Bob and me, the company not only survived but thrived. Orders poured in, and we hired new employees to keep up with demand. For the first time in a long while, I finally had time to breathe. I had built something new, something worth protecting. And from now on, I would do everything in my power to ensure this family of employees flourished.